Power of Thought Book 2 of 3. If you analyze what you will find that you are hurt on account of your own mental attitude, and it is that which shatters your strength and brings suffering. Without a properly controlled mind and the habit of right thinking, no one can therefore travel safely on the path of life. Even our ordinary duties cannot be performed without right thinking, and right thinking means the awakening of intuition and the establishing of tranquility in our whole being and cultivating strength of the mind. This is what we need in order to think properly. Ordinary minds think, but their thoughts are broken before they have achieved their objectiveness. They therefore cannot serve their purpose. However, small or great be the objective to be achieved, unless the mind is thinking. The mind, it cannot accomplish anything, no matter what we do, no matter how insignificant our position may be, whether many depend on us or only a few. We have a certain responsibility in life. To meet this abai, we must learn to live with understanding, and we cannot acquire this understanding without bringing our thoughts under our control. Making the mind introspective, in other words, without gaining the power of concentrated thoughts. The chief aim of all religions and philosophies is to lift the mind to a state of perfect balance, serenity, and vigor. In order to do this, concentration is essential. Practical religion always leads to contemplation. We must think diligently and learn to adjust our forces. We must find out what our needs and defects, what are the causes of our mental disturbances and distractions. We can discover these things only when we look within. So we must become meditative, for looking within ourselves is what meditation means. Constantly thinking of an object in the external world is also a kind of meditation, as our thoughts flow steadily towards it, but it ends up in more dispersion of strength. When, however, our minds are focused and turned inward, when they are well established on higher dimensions of life, then they may be called truly meditative, and thus we gain real wisdom and happiness. Meditation is the real key to knowledge and the source of all power. Even those who seek knowledge at the material plane, scientists, discoverers, or inventors, must develop a certain habit of meditation. If they do not have great concentration, if they do not plunge heart and soul into their research, they cannot discern anything. In the same way, when we wish to discover the subtler facts at the spiritual plane, we must gather all our forces and turn them within. Then alone can we gain understanding. Man must know. Merely believing in some theory, in some doctrine or dogma is not enough for an intelligent mind. A wakeful mind cannot be satisfied by simply hearing about things from others. Therefore, Vedanta declares that religion is a matter of perception, of actual realization or individual experience. This power of realization is not confined to a few great ones only. It is the birthright of every living being. We have the power to centralize our energies and realize the same truth. If only we will try to awaken the inner nature and strive with perseverance, determination, and the real power of will, nothing can stand in our way. We gain intuition through the meditative habit. Things which once seemed impossible become possible to us when we learn to turn our eyes inward to see ourselves. We too can perceive and prove that mighty truths proclaimed by the great seers. If we follow the footsteps and lead the same kind of life, self-control, mastering of our lower nature, and acquisition of the direct knowledge are not mere theories, they can be achieved. We know that there are people born with superior power, superior understanding, and greater control than others. What makes a difference? It is the wakeful nature of their minds enable them to acquire these. However, we all have some possibilities. We can either become weak by letting our minds get scattered and filled with selfish desires, or we can become great mentally and spiritually by focusing our energy on higher ideals. It is said in the scriptures, mind alone is the cause of bondage and the liberation of mankind. The impure mind binds man, the purified mind frees him. The mind is impure when it is divided and lacks discrimination. It is pure and clean and whole, for purity means wholeness, something that is unadulterated. The tendency of undisciplined mind is to be divided and scattered. Most people never try to control their thoughts. They do not seem to realize that following them hopefully, letting them wander hither and farther unchecked, leads to tremendous waste of energy. A scattered mind is indeed the greatest drawback of all human endeavor. We may have every advantage in our certain lives, but if we are lacking the purity of the wholeness of mind, we can make little use of our opportunities. Most of our sorrow, suffering, and sickness and failures are due to our minds, due to our divided minds. Until we gain command over our scattered forces, we can achieve little on any plane. In fact, we cannot perform the simplest task unless we have a certain degree of concentration. An unconcentrated mind is bound to be vague and unstable. It cannot see the present clearly. It has no power or foresight to regard the future, and it cannot retain the experiences of the past. Experience is the base of all knowledge, and only when we retain what we have learned through the experience can we progress. Yet how few really remember the lessons they have gained from their past experiences so that they can recall them and not commit the same blunder over and over. This is because their minds are fickle, so unstable they cannot carry a line of thought to a conclusion. Continuity of thought is necessary to attain success in undertaking, and continuity comes only through the power of concentration. There can be no peace or rest for us until our minds are well collected and focused. We often see that a person who is tired and wants rest finds no rest, though he may be lying in a soft bed. Why? Because his forces are so scattered, his thoughts are so distracted, he cannot quiet in his mind, even though his body is free from activity. There are some who have the notion that resting means doing absolutely nothing and to give up all thoughts and quiet in the mind. But we cannot give up thinking. The mind always goes on thinking about something. Only there are certain thoughts which are restful and certain thoughts which bring unrest. When our minds are directed towards elevating objects, they will become calm, serene, and strong. But this is possible only through constant mental discipline. When we first try to focus our thoughts, we find how dissipated they are. This state, however, is nothing but a result of our own unconscious habits of thinking. Therefore, we must cultivate counter habits to surmount these. All thinking is just a matter of habit. At first, it may be quite difficult because all our past habits will dominate us and try to overpower our minds, but we can conquer through the constant, determined effort and discrimination. For instance, one who has been accustomed to many forms of distraction, like reading light novels, finds it very difficult to hold his mind on serious subjects. Yet through persistence, he begins to cultivate a taste for them, finding the same satisfaction in these as found in previous habits.